Hello there! So, this guy on Reddit requested someone to make a mapping video where you lay commentary over and explain your thought process shortly behind your decisions. Okay, well, I thought it sounded like a good idea. There aren't very many mapping videos out there, and there's no way for people to easily learn how to map. This video, though, could be a way to do that. The same day this was posted, I recorded myself creating this map. It's nothing revolutionary, it just follows the music in a way that's easily explainable to anyone with a basic understanding of the editor. And so the next day, I tried to write my thoughts behind each object, as in why it was placed the way it is. And then I realized I'm actually retarded. I'll let you listen to a little bit of what I had written. I talk about these objects, right here, these ones. This is what I said. The slider's using a pretty generic amount of curve, since there's no reason to make it stand out. For the circle, I decided that 1/4 gaps after slider ends onto snare drums should be spaced to emphasize that sound. So that was pretty simple, right? Maybe you understood why I placed those objects the way I did now. How about looking at these other objects then? They're the same thing. How about these? These aren't quite the same, but they do follow the same 1/4 gaps after slider ends onto snare drums should be spaced idea that I did with the first objects. Yeah, you get it. So enough of that. Let's see what my notes about the next object said. They said, movement into the slider body of this is uncomfortable. Circular flow would be something like this, but that doesn't really express what the song is doing. Uncomfortable movement and a lower slider velocity than usual do though. Okay, cool. That may not be something many people thought about. Movement doesn't necessarily need to be comfortable. So insightful. Let's look at some other objects now. Try to imagine how these would play. If you couldn't tell, they're the same thing. I could explain what I said about the next objects as well, but you get the point. Things repeat themselves. They're not copy-pasted, but they have the same basic ideas behind them. I emphasize certain sounds in certain ways, then repeat the same sort of emphasis for every other instance of the same sounds. The proposed idea for this video was to explain the thought process behind placing each object while mapping. But I don't think the guy who requested this type of video is a mapper. Most mappers can tell you something like this isn't really going to be very useful. There aren't many mapping videos out there because there's no way for people to easily learn how to map. While mapping, I decided on what concepts I'd use to emphasize parts of the song. This includes stuff I've explained so far, like why these are spaced and why these are uncomfortable to play, but there's far more concepts that I decided as well, like how I organize overlaps, complementary placements, the general theme behind patterns, and so on. A lot of these aren't really necessarily concepts to emphasize sounds, but rather they're repeated elements that exist to make things that should be emphasized stand out even more. For example, that uncomfortable movement slider wouldn't be very special unless everything around it used comfortable movement. Similarly, this part with curved sliders and large spacing is special after playing 10 seconds of only straight sliders and small spacing. The main problem inexperienced mappers have is that they focus too much on individual objects, as is perpetuated through the way mod posts are made. Doing this is a waste of time though, since any individual objects can be appropriate given they're supported by the map's concepts. For example, what if I put this slider in? It looks dumb, right? Well, yeah, in this case it does. It's really dumb. The song just doesn't support something so different from the map's slider design concepts. However, if I put it in here, it's not a problem at all. So yeah, that's it.